Welcome back to the Languages Pedagogy Podcast. Today's recap is about magic, but not the kind of magic that comes from tricks, illusions, or smoke and mirrors. This is the kind of magic that happens when a teacher walks into a classroom and refuses to let learning become ordinary. This is the kind of magic that transforms a lesson from something I have to do into something I will never forget. Episode 221 and 222, featuring Tisha, Richmond, and Dave Burgess, gave us one of the most energizing conversations we've had on this podcast. The title says it all. The Magic of Learning: How Great Teachers Turn Ordinary Classrooms into Extraordinary Experiences. And honestly, this conversation was not just about teaching techniques. It was about identity, passion, or remembering why we became educators in the first place. Because somewhere along the way, many teachers lose the spark. We all know that. Maybe we all know why. And not because they're just bad teachers or they don't care, but because the system can be really heavy. We all know that. Curriculum pressure, test scores, administrative demands, standards, textbook, policies, paperwork, office work, behavior management, low salary on top of it, exhaustion and burnout. I think I mentioned all of them, right? Little by little, the teacher who once entered the classroom with the fire begins to operate on survival mode. And that is why this conversation matters. Because Tisha and Dave reminded us that great teaching is not about being perfect. It's about being intentional, about designing experiences, bringing your full humanity into the classroom. It is about saying, yes, content matters. Yes, pedagogy matters. But presentation matters too. So this is how we start this episode. So as I always say, sit down comfortably, get yourself a coffee, and let's get started. And trying to remember a little bit what Dave explained. And he actually explained it beautifully through his three-circle idea: content, methods, and presentation. Content matters because teachers must know what they're teaching. Methods matter because teachers need strong pedagogy, techniques, and classroom strategies. But presentation is the circle we often ignore. How do we bring the lesson alive? Or how do we make students lean in? How do we create curiosity before the content even begins? That is where the magic begins, because teaching is not just delivering information. If teaching were only information delivery, a textbook could replace us. Or a video, worksheets. But real teaching is more than information. It is about connection, it's about the energy, the emotional design. Real teaching is presence, is us there. It's knowing how to turn a classroom into a place where students want to be awake. Dave said something powerful as well. Students can feel whether a teacher is simply punching the clock or whether teaching is their life's work. And that is 100% true. Students know that they feel it. They have it there. They know actually, they just react to, I think they just feel the aura, the energy. So they know when that teacher just go through the motions, just go there just because needs the money maybe or something like that. They also know when the teacher loves being there. They really know that. So that's energy, right? They know when the teacher has prepared as well something special, or when they invest time for them. And Tisha added something just as powerful. One of the greatest compliments a student can give is, I can tell you really love teaching, and I can tell you really love us. Yes. And that is not a small thing, right? That is the heart of education. Because students may forget some of the content, but they rarely forget how a teacher made them feel. They remember the classroom energy, the laughter, the challenge, who greeted them by name, who created safety, or just that teacher that made the subject feel alive. That is magic. That's real magic. Not the Harry Potter one, but this is the teacher magic. Let's be clear, all right? Magic does not mean shallow fun. No. This was one of the strongest points of the conversation as well. They've challenged the false idea that a classroom must choose between learning and fun. And he said through the quote from Quinn Rawlings, serious learning can be seriously fun. That sentence there should be on every teacher's wall. Serious learning can be seriously fun. Fun does not cancel rigor. Joy does not cancel death. Creativity does not cancel standards. Engagement does not cancel learning. In fact, when done well, they strengthen each other. They've called this Reese effect. Some things simply go better together. Learning and joy go better together. Challenge and curiosity. Content and creativity. Structure and play. So, a classroom can be fun and academically powerful. A teacher can be dramatic and rigorous. A student can laugh and still think deeply, right? That is the false dichotomy we need to destroy. Because too many schools still believe seriousness means silence. They believe learning must look controlled, quiet, textbook driven, and predictable. But some of the best learning is messy. Some of the best learning is really loud. And the best learning sometimes looks like organized chaos. And Tisha used that phrase beautifully. Organized chaos. In her culinary arts classroom, students are moving, creating, cooking, collaborating, experiencing, experimenting, talking, making, tasting, failing, fixing, and learning. It is not a classroom where students only read about pies and pastries. They make them, touch the dough, they compare ingredients. They ask what happens if we use butter, shortening, margarine, oil, or a combination. They experience the content physically, emotionally, socially, and intellectually. And that lesson goes far beyond culinary arts. Every subject needs its version of hands in the dough. Yes. In language learning, students should not only read grammar rules, right? They should use language to communicate. They should role play, debate, create stories, record podcasts, interview people, write for real audiences. They should use language to solve real problems. In history, students should not only memorize dates, they should enter the human story. They should feel the conflict, the injustice, the courage, the complexity. In science, students should not only define concepts, they should investigate, test, observe, question, and build. In every classroom, the question is the same. How do we let students experience the learning instead of merely receiving it? That is where the textbook conversation became important. They've made it clear. The Textbook, it's not evil. The textbook can be useful. But the problem is over-reliance. This should be a tool, not a master. A resource, not a religion. A guide, not a prison. And I loved the Bruce Lee connection they brought into the conversation. Bruce Lee moved beyond rigid tradition and created a martial arts philosophy based on effectiveness. He took what worked regardless of where it came from. That is the powerful model for teaching. We should not pledge blind allegiance to one method, one textbook, one app, one strategy, or one tradition. We should ask what works for these students in this moment, for this purpose. If the textbook works today, use it. If a story works better, use it. Movement, technology, a project, game works, even silence, use it. So, if collaboration also works, use it as well. Great teachers are not method loyalists. They are student loyalists. That is the difference. They do not ask, how do I follow the book perfectly? They ask, how do I help my students learn powerfully? Tisha Magical Framework gave us another strong foundation. She explained that magical is an acronym from her book, Make Learning Magical, which, by the way, I highly recommend it to each one of you. And now that we're talking about Make Learning Magical, we got 2 books here. I got Teach Like a Pirate and Make Learning Magical. Beautiful books. This is a must for every single teacher, novice to expert. Beautiful books. They teach exactly what we need, and they keep the faith in us, and they still showing that the real magic happens when we want to make it happen. So continue with that. The magical, the acronym. M stands for memorable beginnings. A stands for authenticity and agency. G stands for gamification. I stands for innovation. C stands for curiosity, creativity, and collaboration. A stands for authentic audience. L stands for legacy. That framework is not just cute, it is practical. Memorable beginnings matter because the opening of a lesson creates emotional momentum. Students decide very quickly whether they're interested or checked out. A powerful beginning says, something different is happening here. Authenticity and agency matter because students need ownership. They need to feel that learning connects to real life and that their choices matter. Gamification matters because challenge, progress, mystery, and play can increase engagement when used meaningfully. Innovation matters because teaching cannot stay frozen while the world changes. Curiosity, creativity, and collaboration matter because students are not machines. They are human beings who learn through questions, imagination, and social interaction. Authentic audience matters because students' work becomes more powerful when it is not only for the teacher's gradebook. Legacy matters because great teaching leaves something behind, not just scores, not completed units, but impact, identity, confidence, a memory, a shift, a spark. That is magical learning. And Tisha's own story shows why this matters. She spoke about being a teacher who had experienced burnout and then rediscovered joy through transforming her practice. That is important because many educators listening may feel tired right now. Maybe you love teaching, but you're exhausted. You want to be creative, but you feel trapped by the system. Maybe you remember the teacher you used to be, but somewhere along the way, Pressure pushed you into survival mode. Dave shared a story about a teacher who cried after hearing his message because she realized this is the way I used to teach. That hit hard. Because sometimes professional development is not about learning something completely new. Sometimes it is about remembering something we lost. Remembering that kindergarten style learning, hands-on, musical, artistic, playful, exploratory, does not become less valuable as students get older. In fact, Dave said he often tries to convince educators to teach more like kindergarten teachers. And he's right. He's fully right. Kindergarten teachers understand experience. They understand movement, understand song stories, art, hands-on learning, curiosity, and play. Then, as students grow older, school often becomes more rigid. Less movement, art, less play, less wonder, and more worksheets, more silence, more seriousness. And this is a big why. Why is that? Teenagers still need wonder. Adults still need engagement. High school students still need joy. University students still need meaningful experiences. They simply get trained to expect less of it. This conversation also challenged the myth that the only extroverted teachers can be engaging. That part was surprising and important. Both Tisha and Dave describe themselves as introverted outside the classroom. That may shock people, especially when you see Dave's high energy, teach like a pirate persona. But this is the point. Engagement is not about copying someone else's personality. Tisha said it perfectly. Your magic is not my magic, and my magic is not your magic. That is a crucial message for teachers. You don't need to become a Dave Burgess or become a Tisha Richmond. You don't need to become the teacher across the hall. But you need to become the most intentional, courageous, creative version of yourself. Teachers need grace too. And this may be one of the most important takeaways from the whole conversation. Extraordinary teaching is not a destination, it's a practice. It is one perfect classroom. It is daily intentionality. It is walking in again tomorrow and asking, how can I make this better? It is learning from others. It is staying curious. It is refusing to become stale. It is admitting that after 20 years, 30 years, or even more, there is still more to learn. They've pointed out that when an educator believes there is nothing left to learn, that is a red flag. And he's right. The best teachers are not the ones who think they know everything. The best teachers are the ones who keep learning, experimenting, observing, asking, refining. They keep stealing like artists from outside education, from music, theater, cooking, sport, storytelling, design, games, technology, psychology, and life. Because great teaching is not locked inside education. Great teaching borrows from the world. So, what do these two episodes ultimately teach us? They teach us that classrooms can be more than rooms. They can be stages, studios, labs, kitchens, workshops, communities, adventures, places of discovery. They teach us that students need more than content. They need experiences. They teach us that fun and rigor are not enemies. Teachers do not need to be perfect performers. but they do need to be intentional designers. They teach us that textbooks can support learning, but they should never limit it. They teach us that AI can be a powerful tool, but a teacher remains irreplaceable. Emotion is part of memory as well. It's not extra. Part of motivation, part of meaning. It teaches that every teacher has their own kind of magic, not copied, not forced, not fake, but authentic, personal design, built over time. And even most importantly, they remind us that teaching is still beautiful, even when it's hard, when the system is heavy, when the salary is unfair, when the paperwork is exhausting, and when the lesson fails, even when the classroom is messy. Teaching is still one of the most beautiful professions in the world. And we, teachers, are Superman and Superwoman here. Because every day, teachers have the chance to create moments students may remember for the rest of their lives. A moment of curiosity, confidence, joy, belonging. A moment where a student thinks, I can do this. That is magic. Not because it is easy, but because it is intentional. So, to every teacher listening, do not let the system steal your spark. Do not let the textbook become your cage. Do not let fear of failure stop you from trying something new. Do not believe that your classroom has to be silent to be serious. Do not believe that joy makes learning weak. Find your magic, build it, refine it, protect it, and share it. The magic of learning is not about perfection. It's about presence, passion, design, courage. It is about walking into an ordinary classroom and deciding that ordinary is not enough. That is what Tisha Richmond and Dave Burgess reminded us in episodes 221 and 222. Great teachers do not wait for magic. They create it. And sometimes the most powerful lesson a student receives is not written in a curriculum. It is the feeling of being in a classroom where learning feels alive. And until next time, keep teaching with courage, keep designing with imagination, and keep creating classrooms where students do not just learn the lesson, they experience it.